It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Thanks for joining us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. Folks, today we're going to talk about facts about the Pennsylvania State Education Association. I want you to keep an open mind in this show, folks. We're talking about our students. We're talking about our kids who are getting educated in the state of Pennsylvania. I've always said this, and it's so true if you think about it. If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. And the point is that education today is the key that keeps us going in our society. And today we have the president of the PSEA, Mike Crossey, who will discuss some of the issues that are concerning the Pennsylvania State Education Association as well as the students in the state of Pennsylvania. Nice to have you back, Mike.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now you're El Presidente, huh?
Yes, got elected, took office September 1st.
Yeah. Are you having fun?
I'm having a great time. I think it's a wonderful job.
It's a wonderful job, but it's a challenge. You know,
Certainly is.
It's a great challenge. I've said this so many times before, and today I'm going to be the devil's advocate, okay, to ask you hopefully questions that are on people's minds, and I don't mean to demean anyone by saying this. Let me go on record, and I've said this from day one. I could speak for the number of teachers that I know of, okay, in the system here. We have a tremendously abundance of great public school teachers, and I applaud them all because it's a very difficult task today. I was a teacher back in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, and I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be a teacher today because of the challenges that they face, okay? However, with that being said, there are some challenges that the teachers are facing today in the state of Pennsylvania. So let's talk about the primary factor, and we'll get right to it, is the budget.
Right. Governor's budget is absolutely terrible. And I just put it right out there that way. Since Governor Corbett came into office, he has cut $860 million from basic education funding for our students. That has caused 70% of the districts to increase class sizes. It has caused districts all across the state to increase local property taxes. It has meant less programs, less resources, less staff. We've got 14,000 less educators in the state because of layoffs this past year. Governor Corbett has truly hurt public education in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay, now with that being said, Governor Corbett sat where you sat on my show recently and talked about the budget. Okay, now we have to put things in perspective. Right. The stimulus money came in, and correct me if I'm wrong. When the stimulus money came in, they gave you the stimulus money and they said, look, the PSEA, you do what you need to do with this money. That was a one-time shot. I think at that particular point in time, it was told this is only one time you're getting X amount of dollars, okay? The stimulus money is gone, all right? Now you have to go back to reality as to what the budget is. According to what I see, the state subsidies, the state subsidy to the fund for education has been the largest it's ever been without the stimulus money, okay? It's the largest amount of money that ever was given to to education since 2008, 2009. So we had this windfall of money. Do what you have to do with it. Do it, run your business education the way it should be. Now you're not going to have it. Now we have to come in. However, even at that, you have a tremendous increase. Okay, so if you're getting a big increase now that you never had before in the line item, okay, what would be the concern?
The concern is we're back to education funding as it was in 2008, 2009.
But an increase.
An increase over 2008, 2009, way down between 2010, 2011.
But you had stimulus money before that.
But the stimulus money came in. What Governor Rendell did with the stimulus money was he took the basic education funding, he cut it then, used stimulus money to backfill, but that education money was still there. Okay, he just said, I'm going to use this for other things because President Obama was giving us money to keep education moving in the right direction. And if we look back, it's not like there isn't the need for education funding. The bipartisan legislature did a costing out study in 2006, 2007, and said that the state was underfunding public education in the state of Pennsylvania by $4.5 billion. So yes, were we trying to make up on that? We were trying to follow a formula that allowed schools to have more adequacy in their funding from the state and more equity in their funding from the state. That was what Governor Rendell did, was he said, okay, here's where we're supposed to go next, but I'm going to take some of that money out, I'm going to backfill it with stimulus money. So it wasn't like he was increasing the budget just with fake money. What he was using was federal money to replace state money, and when the stimulus money was gone, the state was going to continue on that path.
Okay, so I'm a little confused here, okay? Because I want to be factual.
Okay.
Now, if I'm getting $5,000 a year, and you increase me to $6,000 a year that I'm getting, okay, and then stimulus money comes in and they say to Sam, I'm going to give you an extra $10,000 this year, so that gives me $16,000. I'm getting it, but however, Sam, I'm going to tell you, this $10,000 I'm giving you is an only one-time shot. So use that money wisely to what you can use it, because when we're done with it, you're not going to have it. Right. So then that $10,000 goes away, and they come back and say, Sam, guess what? You were getting $6,000. In fact, you were getting $5,000. You got $6,000. Okay, I'm going to give you $8,000. Okay, when you were getting $6,000. Okay, so no matter how you slice the figures here, the fact is that you got stimulus money. Okay, now you don't have it, as well as everybody else, okay? For example, roads and bridges, and I think Rendell took some of that money and put it into education, okay? And remember, I'm thinking education is key. There's no question about it. But I'm going to be talking about accountability a little bit about, okay, and where the taxpayers and there's a lot of concerns, okay? We don't want to be one-sided on this, Mike. So if that was the case, all right, now you do have a big budget, even though it wasn't what it was before, okay? So is it fair to say Corbett cut you? In essence, he gave you more on a state subsidy.
No, I believe Corbett cut education funding in the state of Pennsylvania. You're right, there's some shifting of money going around, but one of the things they're using to say we've got an increase in budget is they're throwing other things in that never were included in education funding before. For example, this year the governor is saying, we're doing now everything into a student achievement block grant program. And when he looks at that, and when I look at that, I go, geez, education's got more money. The reason, and I call it a shell game, because what they've done is they've cut education funding for students. And then what they've done is they've thrown in transportation costs, they've thrown in Social Security costs, they've thrown in transportation to non-public and charter schools and said, okay, now here's all this money. You've got more money. In reality, we don't. The example that I use, I was speaking with a parent group the other day, and the example I used was my child comes to me and says, Dad, you give me $10 a week for allowance. You also give me $5 a week for lunch, and you give me $4 a week for my scouting dues, okay? Dad, I'm not getting enough money. I need an increase in my allowance. And I look at him and I go, you know, you're right. You need a bigger allowance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lump everything together. I'm going to give you $15 a week now for your allowance. But I'm not going to give you money for scouting and for your lunch. You take everything out of the same pile. Well, I'm down $4. You're down $4. That's what the governor has done. He's added things in, like I said, Social Security, transportation costs, and said, here, now look, you've got more money. In reality, we don't have more money.
Okay, I'm gonna pick up on that. Okay, again, I want to be the devil's advocate here. Sure. Okay, because I don't want people to think that I'm just going to give you a free ride. Okay, and condemn what the governor's done. Okay, if I'm sure we have a lot of educated people that sat down and negotiated. Folks, I'm talking to Mike Crossey, and we have a serious concern: education. Okay. And if you think, as I said, if you think education is expensive, you know, try ignorance, okay? It's a key. And I've said this time and time again. We are blessed with the teachers we have here in the state of Pennsylvania. Very proud of them. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. You're going to watch us 24/7 on SSPTV.com. Welcome to a lot of viewers in central Pennsylvania. This is a show that we try to bring as much information to you as possible. And my guest today is the president of the PSEA, Pennsylvania State Education Association, Mike Crossey. Now, if you want to know more about what Mike's saying, go to his website, or to their website, savepaschools.org. as well as go to our website. Every Sam Lesante show and every show we have is archived, and you certainly could peruse it. Getting back to your saying about that individual with the money, okay, and in essence, he's down $4. The other side of that is Dad, okay, who is making, who has a job, and he is on a fixed income of making $40,000 a year. Dad just got hit with higher property taxes, higher energy, higher gas, higher everything, okay? Yep. So now Dad says, look, I'll do what I can, but I can't give you everything that you want because I don't have the money coming in. So when you have the state of Pennsylvania, okay, keeping in mind, as I want to say before, your state subsidy, according to the budget, was the highest that it was in 2009, taking the stimulus money out. So I understand what you're saying. But in order for me to give you something, I need to have the money coming in. So where do we go? We go to our taxpayers. We have to go to the people and say, you have to pay more money. You have to pay higher property taxes, higher this, okay? And am I getting a return on my investment, okay? So that's what I think people are concerned. And I've said this, our teachers are fantastic, but how much can we afford?
I can answer both of those questions. One, we don't need to go to our local property taxes. I'm one of the first ones in the state of Pennsylvania that say our property taxes are too high. And the reason I say that is because Pennsylvania is one of the worst states in the nation for paying from the state level for public education. We're 44th in the nation in terms of what we give to public education. Other states pay this at the state level. And two things. One, we are extremely accountable in the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania students are doing unbelievably well. We're the only state in the nation that in the last 8 years has improved test scores in every subject area tested across the nation, in every grade level tested across the nation. Pennsylvania students, according to the NAEP, the National Assessment for Educational Progress, according to the National Education Association, National Assessment for Educational Progress, Pennsylvania students are 4th in the nation in reading at the 4th grade level. We're 8th in the nation in 8th grade. In mathematics, we're 5th in the nation at the 4th grade level, and we're 12th in the nation at the 8th grade level. We're doing really well. 70% of our students in Pennsylvania go on to higher education, and we're 7th in the nation for students graduating from college. So it's not like we're just sending students to college and then having them drop out. So we're doing really well. 93% of our schools in Pennsylvania made AYP, adequate yearly progress, last year. So accountability, we're doing the job in Pennsylvania. We still have 144 buildings that are troubled buildings, and we have a lot of work to do in those buildings. And I don't know whether today or at some point we'll talk about solutions that work for those buildings. But at the same time, to your point about revenue coming in, we have proposed to the governor where the revenue can come from. Marcellus Shale, for example, they passed a silly impact fee. It was a way not to do what they needed to do. If we pass an extraction gas tax of, say, 5%, which is the same as West Virginia and Texas, the average in the industry, we would bring in another $400 to $500 billion a year, $4 million a year, every year. If they close the Delaware loophole that allows 74% of major corporations, not corporations like your show and the mom and pop stores, if we close the Delaware loophole and stop 74% of the major corporations from avoiding the corporate net income tax, it would bring in $400 to $500 million. The money's there. This is a manufactured crisis in the state of Pennsylvania.
Every time you make a decision on something, okay, and you're basically saying about Marcellus Shale, okay, there's been a lot of research, from what I understand, when the Lieutenant Governor was here, who was head of that campaign, or the committee on Marcellus Shale. I'm sure that when you look at the state of Pennsylvania, as to why are we not attracting corporations and why are we not doing what we have to do, people have to work for things to happen, all right? Now, if you make the small business person's life miserable and tax them to death, there's no incentive for me to hire more people. In fact, the incentive would be for me to lay them off because we just can't afford it, right? So I think what they're looking at is what do we do in the state of Pennsylvania to generate that? Now, I don't know all the facts, but everybody jumps on Marcellus Sale. He explained why different things were being done. We're dealing with a lot of educated people here. I don't think Governor Corbett or any governor, Rendell or any governor, would sit and say, well, we're going to pounce on education. That's our key. That's our life. The more educated we become in life, the better we're going to be, okay? Because, again, when you deal with ignorance, it's very difficult, okay? So I feel that, number one, how do we, Michael, okay, as the president of PSEA, okay, you know, I know the teachers have an agenda. I do not feel that any organization should endorse anyone, okay? I don't feel that way. I think the people should decide who should be voted, okay? Whether it's my candidate or not, okay? So there is agendas, okay? You have the realtors who supported a congressman who I don't think they should have done that. Because what you should do is let the people decide, okay? But that's my opinion, okay? And that's arguable, I'm sure. So if you have an agenda, okay, there's pensions, okay? How much can we pay? How much can the public pay? Here again, not saying our teachers don't deserve it, but there are a lot of people that are in the same situation. How do you respond to that?
I respond to that with, if you're looking at the pension system, pension system in 2000 was 123% funded. At that point, every educator, teacher, support professional, superintendent was paying in about 6.5% of their pay. The state was matching with the school district what the teachers and educators were paying in. The system was 123% funded, doing very well. Governor Ridge took office in the year 2000. He said, your system's overfunded. We don't have to make our fair share of the contribution. So they paid in zero. The employer side paid in zero. In that 10-year period, the teachers, the support professionals, the superintendents continued to pay in. It went up in 2001 to 7.5%. So out of every one of my paychecks, I paid in 7.5% towards my pension. Very different than a lot of other places where I pay for my pension. What happened in that 10-year period is the state and the employer, okay, the individual school districts, paid in 3.48% on average, half of what the employees were paying in. What ended up happening in 2012, we had 2 recessions in that decade, caused the stock market to drop, hit the pension systems pretty hard. What ended up happening was we knew that there was going to be a huge spike in 2012. We were the ones who went to the legislators and said, let's pass a bipartisan reform bill in the pensions. We did that. We passed that so that we save taxpayers going forward over the next 30 years, $19 billion. We recognized that pension costs were not sustainable in the direction they were going. So what we did was we were the ones who forced the reform of the pension system, allowing taxpayers to save money. Now, does that mean pension costs are not going up? They are going to go up. But they're not going up because pensions are going up. Pensions are going to stay where they were, according to the formula. Pensions are going to stay where they were, but what's going up is taxpayers, the state and districts now are going back and paying that bill that they let accumulate over the last 10 years. That's what's being paid for, is the unfunded debt over the next so many years. That's what has to be paid for, not increasing pensions, because pensions aren't going up. Matter of fact, new employees coming up, all those pensions have been rolled back in the multiplier. So all new employees starting July 2011 are going to receive a lower pension. They're going to still get a good pension, but they're going to receive a lower pension than those employed prior to that.
Folks, I'm talking to Mike Crossey, who is the president of the PSEA. When we come back, we're going to talk about, when you're talking about accountability, there are some statistics out there versus the charter schools, vouchers versus the state-run schools, and some of the results that came from that, and where are we going in the future. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. You're watching us here on your broadcast or cable system. Remember SSP TV, or go to our website, ssptv.com, to learn as much as you can about all the shows we have produced in Hazleton. We're very happy to say that we are the #1 local news with over 85,000 people watching our news. Yes, on a daily, weekday basis, and we say thank you to the Greater Hazleton area for that. My guest is Mike Crossey, who is the president of PSEA. Mike, let's talk about it. You said about your, you were bragging about what the results are.
Right.
Now, if someone Googles, and if you Google this information on vouchers and private school, parochial schools, in some cases, the charter schools and the parochial schools and private schools had higher ratings than state-run, public education, and these are facts that you get. So if anyone's for education, then PSA should say, look, we're going to do our job, and we should let the private schools do their job, and if there's vouchers, then you do what you have to do. And the charter schools, we wish them the best of luck. Let's all do what's best for the state. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that charters do not do as well as public education.
Now, 96% of people, have said that the charter schools, if you Google again, have when you compare the charter schools with a respective school in the district, they have come out higher in their particular ratings, as well as public parochial schools.
And I would challenge their statistics. And a study was done last year by Princeton University. Princeton University did a study of charter schools here in the state of Pennsylvania and nationwide. On average, only 17% of charter schools do better than public schools. 46% do the same within a standard of measurement. 36% do worse. 37% is the final number. It's 17% do better, 46 are the same, 37 do worse. That's according to a study at Princeton University. In Pennsylvania, there's 12 cyber charter schools. Only 2 of them even made adequate yearly progress last year. Pennsylvania's public schools do better than charter schools. Not to say that charter schools don't have a place in our system, they do. But they should be held to the same accountability standards as our public school system. Same with parochial schools. I have no problem. I'm a product of parochial schools. But parochial schools are not accountable to the public. They're not accountable for taxpayer money. What the position we've taken, and let me hit vouchers while I'm there, vouchers just don't work. The oldest voucher program in the country is the Milwaukee voucher system. Last year, as Wisconsin was trying to get through its debate on school funding, the Secretary of Education for the state of Wisconsin made the statement, we spent $170 million a year on this voucher program in Milwaukee. The students in the voucher schools do less well than the students in the traditional public schools. Why are we wasting taxpayer money? That's not my union talking. That's Milwaukee. Okay. Vouchers nowhere in the country have proven to do better than public schools. There isn't one example of a program that has been researched by non-voucher programs or, so depending on who's doing the research, sometimes they can play with numbers. So we have found zero research that says vouchers do better or charters do better. So what we're saying is let's make every public school in Pennsylvania the school of choice. Let's make every one of our schools accountable. If you want to have charter funding, if you want to have voucher funding, then those schools should have to have the same tests as public schools so that people can really compare. Right now they don't. Parochial schools, charter schools don't have to take the PSSAs.
Unfortunately, I have a minute and a half left, but there's a lot to be said about your set, When we're talking about certain parochial schools in certain areas in northeastern Pennsylvania, they have statistics as to the graduates, what their results were versus public schools. When it comes to vouchers and comes to charter schools, they have their statistics, what their results of their students have been versus the public schools. And so again, I don't have those facts. And when I started the show, I said, I want to deal with facts. Right. And I said, I'll be the devil's advocate because I want people to understand that there's 2 sides of the story as to education. Because if I feel I want to send my child to a parochial school, all right, then why not give me a voucher to do that? And I'll if I feel that the child's not getting the education, then I'll bring them back to the public school. Don't you think that should be a choice made?
No.
Okay. So you're stymieing me for sending where I should send my kid.
You are more than welcome to go to.
But you don't want the taxpayers to pay for it.
Taxpayers shouldn't pay for it unless those schools are exactly the same accountability standards and transparency standards as the public school system. I'll give you a perfect example.
You got 30 seconds.
The person who runs the cyber charter school, Agora Charter School, made $2.6 million last year. That's taxpayer money.
That's cyber charter now.
Cyber charter.
Okay.
That's taxpayer money that should go to educate children. We believe that cybers, charters, parochial schools, if they're going to get taxpayer money, should be just as accountable and just as transparent as
Okay.
public schools.
Mike, I appreciate you coming on the show. I will have some other people on the show talking about the other side, okay?
Certainly.
And then what I would like to do is get back to you so you can respond to that.
Love to do that.
I'm all for presenting facts, okay?
Right.
And because the public has been sold down the tubes so many times with our politicians telling them we're going to do this, we're going to do that. What do we have? Higher taxes, higher property taxes, energy that they can't afford. They can't pay their bills, and people are saying you're living a good life. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, I applaud you. I applaud your teachers. I'm going to tell you, I think we have great teachers, and God bless them. They really work hard, folks.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, Mike Crossey, who's the president of PSEA. Remember, 24/7 SSPTV.com, and also go to savepaschools.org to learn more about the PSEA. We'll see you next time.